What is up, everybody? We are going to be going over some of New World's lore today, and we're going to probably be reading some of the information that is available on the newworldfans.com. We will also be looking at some of the journal lore and speculating with anybody who wants to show up and chat with us. So let's go ahead and switch over to my new desktop view here so that we can see the browser and we can look over some of this new games, new lore for a new world. Alright guys, let's see here. Let's turn on a little bit of music at a lower volume, of course. Alright, there we go. Let me make sure I have all these settings correct real quick. My first time doing a stream like this, so I just want to make sure we got all this working the way we want it to. Alright, if the music is a little bit loud, please let me know so I can adjust that. Hopefully that should be a lot lower than my voice though. Alright, I think first thing I'd like to do is read this. So, little caveat to this is the basic lore, but in story form that somebody wrote. So it is technically fan fiction, but that being said, it is canon. So they just took bits and pieces of the basic lore, the canon lore, and put it into a more enjoyable read. And I think we're gonna start here, guys. So I'll start reading, and feel free to jump in at any point and, throw some talking points, throw some discussion points, something you like, something you disagree with, and we will talk it over. Just make sure we keep everything pretty civil and relaxed. Alright, so the waves are crashing violently around you, and you wonder why you took this journey. Then you remember. You have been drawn to this enigmatic world for the same legend that led generations of explorers to the mystical shores of this island. Aeternum is an island unlike any other. It pulses with a strange life that can only be explained by the powerful substance that runs through it, Azoth. Many believe that Azoth is the key to eternal life, and this substance has drawn both the pure of heart and wicked to its shores. Azoth has the power to magnify all life forms around it, creating unimaginable beauty in both the atmosphere of the island and the creatures that live there. However, there is a very dark side to this exotic substance that can have evil effects on the life forms that it comes in contact with. The brave adventurers that washed up on the shores before you were endangered at every turn by vicious elements known as corruption. The corruption corrupts life itself it comes into contact with, and has varying degrees of potency depending on the makeup of its host. Some are left as bestial husk, while others are exalted to incomprehensible power. If I mess up a little bit of the reading, I apologize. Doing my best. Hey, what's up, Toljar? How you doing? Good to see you in here, man. Right now, we're just reading over the lore that is on newworldfans.com. This is technically fan fiction, but it's just canon that was put into a much easier to digest, readable material. And feel free to stop me at any point. Just hit me up in the chat, and we can stop and talk about anything y'all want to talk about. If y'all have an idea that something in the lore is, weird, or something you want to get into a little bit more, we'll see if we can find something about it. I'm pretty much running this all with you guys, trying to figure this out myself. So we're learning together. I did find some cool little tidbits that I want to go over in a little bit, but we're gonna keep going with this. But like I said, feel free to stop me at any time. We can talk about whatever. Your ship finally comes to a crashing halt as you wash up on the shores of Aeternum. You get out of the boat and look upon the land that is more beautiful than anything you have seen. You step out of the vessel onto the shores of Aeternum for the first time, and you try to soak in the sheer beauty you're witnessing. However, you quickly realize that you're not alone. You hear a screech and see a hideous creature running towards you. You make a quick work of the monster, but the reality of your situation begins to set in. This place may be beautiful, but it is definitely not safe. After a bit of exploration around the shores of Aeternum, you encounter several more zombie-like creatures and begin to learn that these were once humans that died in some horrific way on the island and are now stuck in this half-death state. These soulless wretches you now call the Lost. Those are, if you watched the previous stream where we were doing the beta, those are the zombie-like guys that you fight in the very beginning, in the on the shore and on the intro, where they teach all the combat and stuff. So it's pretty cool that that not everybody who crashes on the island gets this weird immortality. It looks like some people become zombies, and then even some people that get the immortality type deal, they can become corrupted. And as we're going to find later, there are other exceptions to this immortality that Aeternum and this Azoth seems to give to people. You find a safe place near the beach to set up camp for the night in order to rest up for the explorations of the next day. As the sun rises, As the sun rises and you wake up, your breath is taken away at the sheer beauty of your surroundings, so much so that you have forgotten about the incredibly vicious Lost that you encountered the night before. As you snap back into reality, you begin to make a push inland. As you travel further away from the shore, the ocean you were once close to fades away, and you find yourself traversing thick foliage, still in search of the mystical substance Azoth. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Got a weird little hiccup there. I'm assuming this is some of the concept art of the game, because it doesn't look like the in-game, it looks like actual artwork, which is kind of cool. I haven't actually looked at any of the concept art, so it's definitely interesting. I'm pretty happy with that. The game itself, the actual in-game graphics and the artwork of in-game are beyond beautiful, so it's definitely pretty cool to see some of the original art. In the distance, you see what appears to be another person running for their life, weaving around trees. Before you could shout to them, you see some sort of humanoid creature plant an arrow in their back, and they fall, and the creature spots you. Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed a lot of the gameplay. It seems like they stage concept with in-game at times. Yeah, I mean, I obviously, like I said, I haven't seen a lot of the concept art, but I definitely agree that looking over the that doesn't look like concept art for the game. It might be, but I don't know. I can't really tell. Oh no, you know what that is? That's your character whenever you're on the ship. So that's in game. Okay, that's in like a little miniature in game cinematic. Yeah, but like see like this right here, this concept of this tree with the blue there and like some of the weird colored foliage and stuff. Yeah, I can definitely see that, which is pretty cool. You prepare for a battle, engage and defeat the monstrosity. After further exploration, you encounter many other varieties of the same creature and realize that nature is trying to imitate the form of humans and other creatures it sees. It is the island's defense system. The natural powers of the island are rising up to fight against the people who have come to corrupt it, and you call these creatures the Angry Earth. Okay, so I did run into some of the Angry Earth in the actual game itself, and the Angry Earth is a really cool concept to me. So in other games, you can be a druid and like be one with nature. It's a pretty common theme throughout a lot of different games, and even in New World, you can use some nature magic, right? But the idea that the island itself has this like protection system, that it creates things that are similar to the things that are invading, is weird to me. Like, if there's a consciousness to the island, to Azoth, like some sort of like hive mind type consciousness that wants to protect itself, why would it build constructs that are similar to the things that are attacking it, or to the animals that have been, normalized and grew up on the island, right? Why not make something that would, like, some sort of larger monstrosity, something that would be OP against it? Now, obviously, for gameplay reasons, you're going to want models that players are going to recognize. You don't want models that are going to be OP against players. So, like, from a gameplay perspective, sure. But it's just weird to me that that's the way it is. And that they're not beyond humanoid form or beyond the animal forms that are obviously seen on the island itself, that we wouldn't see some sort of like vine-like tentacle coming out of the ground, or treant type mobs. We might later, but I just feel like more diversity with the Angry Earth would fit that lore concept better, that the natural powers are attacking the players and attacking the corruption. You continue to push inland, hoping to find signs of another person so you can seek out answers to the many questions you already have in the short time you've been on Aeternum. After some time, you stumble upon a large settlement. You enter the settlement consciously and learn that there are a few more people already living on the island. Upon arriving, you begin asking about the towering monoliths that you have seen in the distance. You learn that there was once an ancient civilization that inhabited Aeternum and harnessed the power of Azoth. They used it to power their technologies. Something happened to the ancients, but no one knows what. The remnants of their past lay scattered across the island. Let's see. For the staff quest, I do remember a tentacle at the cave, but those were corrupted ones. Maybe corrupted Angry Earth. Now that you're saying it, I do kind of remember that. And then, like, also the door. The door was kind of made of vines, right? So yeah, I can see that. You're not wrong. That's a good point. It kind of begs the question, how come we don't see more of those uncorrupted, though? Or maybe the corruption is distorting, like it's taking a hold of the bases of Angry Earth, and mutating it into other things. I don't know. It's pretty weird. Hey, I appreciate the follow, Lion and Ari. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that you saw that. I would definitely. We'll go try to look that up here in a little bit. See if we can find some pictures of it. Maybe somebody has like a compilation of like images, or maybe we could just Google image the Angry Earth, see if we can find some that aren't just animal-like or humanoid-like. So we'll take a look at that here shortly. Also, what we just read about the ancients. The ancients, like, there's a whole bunch. Like, people have been giving this game like a thumbs down when it comes to lore, but I really honestly think it's a hidden gem. And I think that the problem is that it's not that the lore isn't there or that it isn't well written, because I think both of those things are true, that it is there and it is well written. I think that it's not easily digestible in a way that people are used to. I think that people nowadays have grown up on things like World of Warcraft. They've grown up on things like Final Fantasy XIV. All these games that have been out for 17 years or whatever. Whenever I first got into the scene, into MMOs, everything was text-based. You had to read it, and a lot of the lore wasn't just like from story quest where you bounced from point A to point B in a linear path. You had to like find lore books. You had to find like talking to NPCs would give you information. So I think like the ancients, the Angry Earth, Azoth, the way the immortality works with some people and doesn't with others, things like that. There's a lot that can be done with that lore to turn this game into something really amazing, story based, but people aren't digesting it because they're not having it fed to them in a way that they're used to. So I don't know, I feel like there's a really shiny hidden gem in this lore that a lot of people just aren't seeing, which is why I wanted to do a stream like this. I'm probably going to do quite a few of these, depending on kind of the reception I get from this and the interaction I get from it. If I can get people interested in lore, I think that would really not just boost the longevity of the game, but I think that if a lot more people got interested in the lore, it would tell Amazon Game Studios, hey, this is something to invest in, to expand upon, and maybe make it somewhat easier to digest for people who are used to having, main story quest feed you the storyline, or cutscenes feed you the storyline. And also that it's a new game. You don't have a lot of people who are doing lore like this, like novel and stuff like that, where you had with WoW. So hopefully we can change some minds on that. Alright, let's get to the next part. During your time at the settlement, you quickly make a few acquaintances and learn that everyone on the island isn't as hospitable as some of the people you have met. There are several other settlements on Aeternum, even a 3-way faction war brewing amongst the people. Aeternum clearly isn't what you were expecting when you began this journey to obtain the power that is harnessed within Azoth. You now understand that to get what you want, you're going to have to be here for a very long time. Okay, so that really was a good way to sum this up, to sum up a lot of the entry level type lore for this. Let me turn down this light just a little bit. I'm already having a little bit of sinus problems. Having a bright light directly in my face while I'm trying to read ain't helping. Alright, so what I was saying is, like, a lot of this lore is going to be based around Azoth and Aeternum. Those are your two main things. So Azoth is the power on the island, and the best way to describe it is a mineral on the island. the island itself is called Aeternum. You've crash landed there on a ship from the ocean. There are 3 factions vying for power that are made up of humans just like you. There seems to be a force that is keeping people alive for extended periods of time, but there is also a force causing people to become zombies. The corruption. So you have, and you also have the Angry Earth, right? So you have the 3-way faction war. You have Marauders, Covenant, and Syndicate all fighting each other. You have nature versus Angry Earth, basically, versus corruption. Then you have player versus corruption and player versus Angry Earth. So that's another 3-way fight, right? And then you have essentially good and evil, corruption versus nature. And, I would consider the people, the actual players, kind of a neutral party. The last one is weird because it's not like explicitly thrown out there, is the Ancients. So if the Ancients aren't here, what part do they play in the lore? Like, so far we understand that, like, they used Azoth, but it doesn't look like they were the creators of Azoth, right? So we have all these, like, 3-way fights going on, like, that we're involved in, but the Ancients don't play a part in them as much as we might find stuff to use that they left behind. So we'll see how that one goes. The Ancients is weird to me, like how they're fitting into the lore. It's going to be interesting how that ends up working out, which actually is the next section here. There are a few videos. If you guys want to watch some of these videos on the stream, I'm not against that. We'll come back to that and see if y'all want to watch some of those on stream here. So I guess we'll read through this part next, and then I want to take a break from reading these like main lores to go to the Constable Oaks. I want to say it's Constable Oaks. Let me pull it up real quick. No, it's Embracing the Darkness. I'm sorry. Constable Oaks was what I had open earlier. Let me bring up both of these real quick. Oh, Constable Oaks is the second half. I want to go over those real quick because I found something kind of interesting in there that could be pretty neat to review on stream with you guys and get some varying opinions on these 2 specific pages. So let's look over this real quick. Let's look over the Ancients of New World. Heron's Field Notes. Heron's Field Notes is a piece of the New World lore that tells the story about a researcher in Aeternum trying to discover the secrets of the Ancient Guardians. These lore pages describe many encounters with the Ancient Guardians and discuss the type of weaponry and attacks they use. Heron also hints at how the ancient obelisks were constructed or potentially made by the ancients, and references the directional positioning of the orbs on the top of the obelisk that are directed towards the shattered obelisk. Through Heron's Field Notes, we also discover some very interesting information about the actual location of Aeternum on Earth, and that Aeternum is in fact the primordial Eden from which all life sprang. So, were the ancients the first creatures to inhabit the earth? And are the ancient guardians simply peons guarding a much larger secret of the aeons? Of the ancients, sorry. So that's that specific piece right there. That's interesting to me, where it's that Aeternum is in fact the primordial Eden from which all life sprang. Okay, so they're basically, since this is taking place on like an alternate version of Earth, right, an alternate timeline essentially, Are we saying that the cradle of civilization is actually Aeternum now in this reality? And also, it's inferring that the ancients could have been the first creatures to ever inhabit the earth. Now, were they original inhabitants? Were they designers who created humanity, created everything else, and corruption is just some experiment gone wrong? We don't know. But that could lead to what I was getting into earlier, which is what part do they really play in the lore? Like, how important are they really going to be, and what is the main purpose of them in the long term of the story arc, right? You can read the full Huron's Field Notes in our text on our Lore Pages database, and you can use coordinates to navigate our map navigate our New World map of Aeternum to see the locations of the Lore Pages and points of interest. Also, yeah, guys, this website is an absolute gem. Real quick, I'm gonna plug them. They're not sponsoring us at all, but they're definitely one of the best sites that I've found for New World. They have a database with all the armor, weapons, and abilities, and resources, right? Achievements, dies, all your items. Another cool thing they have is a calculator to, like, put together your character for your attributes and your weapon skills and all that. Camping, potions, furnishing, like everything. Everything is in this giant database. They have guides on starting, expedition, lore, PvP modes, references, weapon guides. There's a quick link to the build and all that stuff. And then also the New World map, which we'll go over here in a minute. Well, not in a minute, but we'll go over that before the end of the stream. I want you guys to see that. The map, the New World map that is, I think, is it this site that is also linked to it? Yeah, the New World map that they've put together is crazy good, and it's definitely a resource that you should check out. So we'll go over that later. The real ancients of New World. The skeletons roaming the land of Aeternum are said to be ancient guardians, but are these ancient guardians actually ancients? The lore pages titled The Vega Bridge and Covenant's Quest should shed some light on this very topic. The ancient guardians are said to be heretics and traitors of their own humanity in revering beings like the ancients, and are now eternally stuck in a skeletal form, cursed to forever guard the ancient ruins. Okay, so you have these skeletal guardians that are protecting all these ancient ruins. And ancient ruins not in terms of time, but in terms of the ancients, as in, like, the race that is being set up there. Hey. So this begs the question, who are the ancients, and if they aren't the ancient guardians? The lore pages also state that the statues around the ruins, like Artris and others of its magnitude, indicate the ancients had 4 arms and a split face. Of which these skeletons that guard the ruins have neither. So the skeletons don't have the split face. They don't have the extra arms that the traditional ancients do, which is kind of what you can see here in this video with the split face there. Which I wonder, if we ever do get to fight an ancient or meet an ancient, what that is going to do. Like, does the face open up and shoot some kind of beam, or, like, is there teeth in there? Like, What's going on with that? It's weird. I don't know. Could be something with the split, or it could just be a line, like an aesthetic thing. You can read the full Vega Bridge and Covenant Quest text in our lore pages database, and same thing, you can use the map to look at where they're located. Okay. So, we've kind of talked about how, like, obviously with the skeletons here, like, having to guard it for eternity, right? That they live pretty much indefinitely. And what we've discovered is that our characters, when they die, they come back, right? They're put into the world again. Your soul doesn't leave the island. You don't die, right? You don't truly die. But are there exceptions to the rules, right? I found some stuff in these two lore pages, right? In the Embracing Darkness lore pages, that to me, I feel like it is. I feel like there are exceptions to the rules when it comes to the immortality aspect of Aeternum, right? So let's read over these real quick, and I'll give my quick opinion. And really, the main focus of it is going to be the first one, if my memory serves, which my memory is pretty terrible. So, Embracing the Darkness, and it belongs to the First Light Legacies, found on the road into First Light. Albert, I won't be returning to the settlement, and I suspect everyone will be relieved, my own mother most of all. But you know that in the decades since we arrived on these accursed shores, my burden has been far the worse to hers. Okay, so he's not coming back to First Light. He thinks everybody's going to be happy that he's not coming back. His mother should be the happiest. And that the decades since they arrived, his burden has been worse than his mother's. Okay. It's damned unnatural for a child to watch a parent remain young as they grow old. Why I'm one of the handful here cursed to continue aging, I will never comprehend. I tried to accept my mother's youth, but after she became constable, it was impossible. Watching her take command with such vigor has only hastened my decay. Even today I listened as she and Artificer Kim made plans for some bright future. They don't realize how stupid they sound. That paragraph has a lot of implications that I think are that need to be explored. Whether we grow old here or not, whether we suffer or thrive, none of us will get the peace of eternal slumber, and without the promise of death, I simply do not see the point in pretending that we are living. I thank you for your friendship, Albert, but I must now turn my back on First Light and embrace the darkness, whatever that may bring. Aethelgard Oaks. So, I actually read this, and then in the game during the beta, and I ran back to go double check and looked at the constable's name, and it was in fact still Oaks. So at whatever point this was written, she is still the constable. She hasn't been promoted. She hasn't been demoted. So I think we can infer from that the point in which this was written isn't some huge difference between the point that this was written and the point that we're reading it. Now it could be a couple 100 years, it could be 2 years, it could be 2 months, right? We don't really know, but being that she became after she became constable, it would imply that she was actively trying to become constable. And somebody who's seeking power like that, they're most likely not going to stop ever. They're going to try to keep getting more and more power, right? That's what I think. So I think that the time that this was written and the time that we're reading it isn't an extraordinarily long amount of time. I think that we're probably looking at a couple of years, maybe, at the most. That'd be my opinion. Now, let's look at the other thing here. The other thing that I really want to explore here, and if anybody is interested in this lore and is interested in the way that the eternal life on this island works, please, in the chat, let me know what you think. It's damned unnatural for a child to watch a parent remain young as they grow old. Okay, so if everybody that is alive on the island and isn't already a zombie and has not fallen to corruption should be eternal, right? Like their soul's never gonna leave. They are in this perpetual state of youth at the point that they landed. Like our character, the NPCs in town that we interact with, so on and so forth. We do see in-game exceptions to that rule with I can't remember his name. The guy who kind of like lives in the little swamp area. A lot of people are always fishing there. But he grew old, and he's been there for a long time. And he even said, I've been here for a long time, essentially. But this specifically is that Aethelgard here is growing older while his mother stays the same age. Why? If everybody else is not aging, why is he? And as he says later, let's see, why am I one of the handful here cursed to continue aging? I will never comprehend. So he doesn't even know why, but he understands that he is one of the handful that are cursed to continue aging. So it's not just him. There are other people who will continue aging. Do they die? What happens to their soul whenever they die of old age? Did they become zombies? Did they become ancient guardians? Do they... Obviously he's not corrupted, because the lore pages we got from the corrupted are written in a different language that only the corrupted can understand, that only they can comprehend, right? And him saying, I will never comprehend, implies that not even him, and not the handful of others, understand why they've continued to age. I've tried to accept my mother's youth, but after she became constable, it was impossible. Why? Why couldn't he accept that his mother wasn't going to grow old? What happened, but after she became constable, it was impossible? Why? What about becoming constable made it impossible for him to accept his mother's youth? What defining factor happened when she took that office that made it impossible for him to... Obviously he comprehends that she's not gonna age and that he is, but something about her gaining the office of constable made him unable to accept that any longer. Why? Watching her take command with such vigor has only hastened my decay. Okay, that's another really interesting line. I'm telling you, this paragraph right here has so much implication. Watching her take command with such vigor has only hastened my decay. Again, why is that happening? If we're taking it literally, then watching her take command with such vigor, with such youthful aggressiveness, has hastened his own decay. Is there some kind of emotional component? Is it like if you become envious, if you become jealous, if you're filled with negative emotions, does that hasten your own decay? If you're one of these cursed people that's continuing to age? Or is it that your own attitudes, your own emotions, your own jealousy, and all these negative emotions are what's causing you to begin aging, and the rest of people have accepted their fate and don't have these extreme negative feelings? Could that be what's going on? But now again, we'd have to be taking this line literally, and that it's actually hastening the decay at which he is aging if he has these negative feelings. Even today I listened as she and Artificer Kim made plans for some bright future. They don't realize how stupid they sound. Okay, so again, he's being really negative. Which, you know, if he has been watching them stay young as he grows old, maybe he has got some sort of deep-rooted resentment towards them, and he is just pissed. Like, that's the whole reason for this line. Maybe that's all that is. But again, going back to the only hastened my decay bit, is it the negative emotions that are increasing that trouble? There's a lot of implications in that one. So there's a second half to this lore page, right? These lore pages. And if we click this here, the First Light Legacies, it's the chapter belongs to Tales of the First Light. And there's 2 pages associated with it, right? So let's read the second page real quick. Constable Oak's journal. Found at the constable's desk in First Light. March 18th. I have long since lost track of how long I've been on Aeternum, and other than the vague recollection of bearing children, I can't remember my life in the old world. I don't know if it's time that's taken the toll on my memory, or all the lies. Each year, they've piled higher, and I can no longer sort the truth from the false. Watching Aethelgard slowly shrivel in body and spirit, I forced myself into the habit of putting on a hopeful smile no matter how I felt inside. Saints know I've tried. For his sake, I've risked everything in a desperate bid to escape this island, but as with everything else here, it ended with disappointment. For some reason, I still remember the smell of his skin when he was a newborn, but in the years before he left, Aethelgard smelled like a sick old man. It reached the point where I couldn't even get close to him. I'll never forgive myself for that. I only hope where he is now, he has found some measure of peace. Okay, so this is the other half of that story, right? And we've also got a lot to unpack here. It's that, one, she's lost track of how long she's been on Aeternum. And she has vague recollections of giving birth to her children. So she says bearing children. That's to me that's plural. Instead of bearing a child, bearing children, which, I don't know, it could go either way with that. So maybe there's more than one there. But really, the big takeaway from that is she's been there so long that she can't remember the like specifics of birthing her children. That's a pretty big event in someone's life. So she'd probably been there quite a while. I can't remember my life in the old world. I can't even remember my life in the old world. She's gotta have been there quite some time. I don't know if it's the time that's taken a toll on my memory or all the lies. What lies? What lies has Constable Oaks been telling, and to what end? What were they? Just a bunch of little white lies? Were they malicious lies? Were they lies to get her into the office of constable? We don't know. But she has some kind of lie that she's been telling a lot of people. Well, I say a lot of people, I'm assuming, because if she got to the office of constable, she had to step over some people, and I'm assuming lie to a lot of people. Each year, they piled higher. And I can no longer sort the truth from the false. So now she's believing her own lies at that point, right? Watching Aethelgard. So, real quick, Aethelgard, right? That makes me think Norse. And we've seen in some of the cinematics and some of the artwork from the intro cinematic and the what's it called? The game trailer, that there were like Norse ships, right? And so she has been there so long that she can't remember, right? So let's see, peak of Norse power. Okay, so the peak of Norse power was between 1240 and 1319. And our game takes place in roughly the 17th century, right? Timeline of New World. Game. There we go. Okay. No, New World is set in an alternative history in the twilight age of expedition and takes place in a fictional and supernatural island of Aeternum in the 17th century. Okay, but it does have parallels to our own history. So, Aethelgard, sounding very Norse, Norwegian, Viking-esque. The peak of their power was in 1240 to 1319, right? The 17th century. So potentially she could have been there, 300-400 years. Longer than that. So his name may be a hint at something. That there are descendants of Norse people on the island. Which, again, we've got hinted from the cinematics. Watching Aethelgard slowly shrivel in body and spirit, I forced myself into the habit of putting on a hopeful smile, no matter how I felt inside. Okay, so she isn't aging, remember? But I forced myself into the habit of putting on a hopeful smile no matter how I felt inside. You know, the whole fake it till you make it thing, maybe that fake hope isn't as fake as she thinks it is, right? Putting on that hopeful smile. So she, even if she has like reservations inside about how her watching her son slowly grow old in body and spirit, putting on that hopeful smile is still producing positive energy, right? Saints know I've tried. So she's trying to be hopeful. So is it, I keep getting back, like looking over these lines, these 2 pages. Is the eternal life tied to the emotions that the person is displaying and putting out? Could be. Hey Zero, I appreciate the follow. Thank you so much. Hope you're enjoying yourself. I am just going over a lot of the lore. We're making a lot of speculations. We're just reading through some of the lore pages right now. If you have any input, by the way, feel free to chat and we'll discuss whatever you're gaining from this, or whatever you think. You know, even if it's contradictory to what I'm saying, you know, I'm definitely open to all outlooks of this. For his sake, I risked everything in a desperate bid to escape this island. Okay, so she's tried to escape, but not for her own sake, not for any selfish reason, but for him, she wants to escape. So again, that's more positive emotion, that's selflessness towards her son, where it seems like him saying, you know, she became constable and I couldn't take it, and she's talking to other people and having all these hopeful conversations and they just don't know how stupid it is. Like, that's a very selfish outlook on how their time is going to go on this island. But as with everything else here, it ended with disappointment. Yet she kept holding that office. So even though she's disappointed and it broke down, she's still holding that office and helping people. So she's putting more positivity out than negativity. For some reason, I still remember the smell of his skin when he was a newborn. But in the years before he left, Aethelgard smelled like a sick old man. Hey, I appreciate the follow, Poseidon. Thank you so much. Aethelgard smelling like a sick old man as opposed to when he was a newborn, but she can still remember the smell when he was a newborn, right? So up here, where she said she can hardly remember bearing the children, but she can still remember the smell of his skin, which, you know, as humans, we associate heavily to smells with memory, so that's not overly surprising. Aethelgard smelled like a sick old man in the years before he left. So she's remembering the way it was and comparing it to the way it is, right? It reached to the point where I couldn't even get close to him. Now, is that because the smell changed? Like, is she saying here that it reached the point where I couldn't even get close to him because she didn't recognize the smell from when he was a newborn and now he's sick and old? Or is it to the point that she couldn't get close to him because of his attitude and because of how negative and angry he obviously had become, that we gained from the first letter that we read, right? So it's not explicit right here what the reason she couldn't get close to him is. The only thing we can infer is that it had something to do with the smell. But again, if we go back to the other page, it could also be his attitude and be that selfishness that he was presenting, right? I'll never forgive myself for that. I only hope where he is now, he found some measure of peace. So even though he had all that stuff to write, and all that, like, pent-up anger and resentment of him growing old and her staying young, and, you know, all this negative energy pointed towards his mother, she only hopes that he found peace. She only hopes that he is doing well, that he is happy, right? Well, not even so much happy, just not angry, that he's found some peace because of how angry he was. So she obviously knew how angry he was, because she doesn't even wish him happiness. She just wishes him to not be pissed off, right? But let's go one other thing. If we go back and compare these two notes like we have been doing here with that last paragraph, he didn't write this letter to his mother. He wrote this letter to someone named Albert, right? And down here, I thank you for your friendship, Albert. But now I must turn my back on First Light and embrace the darkness. So he's turning his back on Albert. He's turning his back on his mother, and he's turning his back on the settlement. Because he can't be around all these people who have hope. He's lost hope. But he's thanking Albert for his friendship, right? But he's not thanking his mother for that she risked everything to escape the island for his sake. Again, a selfish outlook, an angry outlook, but why? Why does he have so much resentment against Constable Oakes, against his mother? So I think these two lore pages, right here, beyond the fact between these two characters, right, have a lot, just a ton to unpack with how this immortality works on this island. How it affects some people and doesn't affect others. How emotions may play a part in it. How having hope may play a part in it. How resentment, all these negative things that he has going on. I wonder, the one thing I didn't check was the map, right? So let's look at this real quick, just for the sake of comparison, right? So this letter was written by Aethelgard to this Albert person, right? And it was located south of First Light, towards the beach, right? Where we know the shorelines is where a lot of the Lost are. So instead of going north or even west towards Cutlass Keys, Windward, or Monarch's Bluff, right? He went south, knowing the shoreline holds the Lost. So he's turning his back on First Light to embrace the darkness. And he is also, distraught emotionally here. Heading south, was he looking for the Lost? Was he actively wanting to turn into the Lost? Why was he heading south? Because, even if you follow because it's on the road, if you follow the road, like, that road only ends up in the shipwreck area, right? And we already know he's turned his back on First Light, so he's not going towards First Light. He's going away from First Light. So he's going towards the shoreline. He has to be. So is he actively looking for the lost? Like, is that how this works? He's getting old. He's getting distraught. So he's going there to, sacrifice himself to the forces of evil to become one of the lost? Is he actively trying to become a lost? Maybe. We don't know yet. But, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Where Constable Oakes has written this letter, I'm not even quite sure. Let's see here. Yeah. Constable Oakes has written this letter in the actual settlement, right? So we didn't find this page anywhere along this road here. So if the map has something to do with this story, which I think it does, I think that, again, I think New World's lore is a hidden gem, and I think that every little piece is deliberate. And I think if we really look into it, we're going to see a deep and fulfilling story, as opposed to what a lot of people think about this story, right? If we look at it in that light, here's the settlement. He's gone down here. He left the page for Albert to find. So he must know that Albert's eventually going to make his way down this direction, right? I don't know why Albert is going down here, but he knows Albert's going to pass through here at some point. So there he goes, and he's going to become lost, I'm assuming. And she has her letter here. If she was actively looking for him, we may expect that letter to be, somewhere further down the trail, right? Or even just somewhere else, like maybe even north, because if she knew that he left, if she still has hope, then, and she thinks that he may, or she hopes that he had found peace, she wouldn't expect him to walk that way. So it kind of makes sense that we wouldn't find the letter down this way. Because if she was going to go looking for him, she would have gone looking for him north or west. Away from the shoreline, where no peace would be found. But up here, where, potentially he could find some area to settle down and find some peace in. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. So, as of right now, we have read these 2 lore pages. We have gone on a pretty in-depth little journey here on these 2 lore pages. We've read the first 2 main lore guide sections that this site has to offer. Let's go ahead and read the 3rd one, and then I want to take a quick look at the map and just go over it with you guys, and let's just look around and just play with it for a second, because there's not much for this one, and it looks like a lot of these are just videos that we can watch later if you guys want to. I'll bring it up, and chat can let me know if y'all want to watch the videos with me. The Corruption. Abraham's research is a story of 2 researchers trying to figure out the mystery of Azoth and the corruption in Aeternum. We get a glimpse at and are given hints as to why the corruption does not plague the settlements of Aeternum. We also began to piece together the connection between Azoth and the ever-spreading corruption through the lands of Aeternum. So really, we could just go look at some of these pages. Yeah, let's do that. Let's look at these pages real quick. All right. And I don't think we're gonna go as in depth as we did with the last ones. We might, I don't know. But let's explore the lore real quick of the corruption. Let me adjust real quick and take a sip of water. Excuse me. Okay, so Everham's research is the lore pages that are going to deal with the corruption found in Windsward Settlement. Robert, our exploration continues. Though we are no closer to finding the cause of these corrupted areas, no logical progression, no determinable cause for location or spread, it is baffling. And while the scientist in me is thrilled at this challenge, the human in me is terrified. The only points that seem truly safe are the protected areas of the settlement. Whatever energy is present there is enough to prevent the corruption of these points from forming. Okay, so what we were talking about with embracing the darkness in Constable Oak's journal, with the energy, the hope, and the emotions that people were presenting, staving off the aging process. You know, I feel like it's a little bit more in here, in that the only points that seem truly safe are protected in the area of these settlements. Whatever energy is present there is enough to prevent those corruption points from forming. So whatever energy is in the settlements is preventing corruption. Our team has reached the northern edge of the Great Cleave, and we are down to 12 members of the original 19. If we lose too many more, we're forced to turn back, which may work out for the best. Okay, so he kind of wants to turn back, right? I think everyone would like to return safely to the south. Yeah. For now, we will continue our research. Our current task is checking the soil samples between locations to determine if there is any variance in composition or quantity of Azoth. You may wish to do the same in your own areas. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Perhaps you'll buy me a drink upon my return. Sarah Avram. So let's break this down real quick. Well, actually, let's look at where it's found first. So it's found in the settlement at Windward, which obviously is stated up there, but it's also cool to look at it on the map. Our exploration continues, though we are no closer to finding the cause of these corrupted areas. So they've been searching for a reason that the corruption happens, right? But they've come to the conclusion that there's no logical progression or deterministic cause for the location or spread that they understand. They're baffled, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a logical progression. It doesn't mean there's no deterministic cause. It just means that they don't understand it, right? So we need to take that line with a grain of salt. And while the scientist in me is thrilled at this challenge, the human in me is terrified. So is that terror clouding his judgment when it comes to figuring out the progression? Because if he made it back to the settlement, which since this was found in the settlement, we're assuming that Robert is the one we're near whenever we're reading this, right? And it's not Sarah. Did Sarah make it? Like, we need to figure that one out. The only points that seem true and safe are protected areas of the settlements. The only points that seem truly safe are the protected areas of the settlements. So the settlements aren't being affected by the corruption. Like, they're not being invaded by corruption. Whatever energy is present there is enough to prevent those corruption points from forming. I really, really feel like with this line and what we could infer from Embracing the Darkness and Constable Oak's journal is that it's hope. Is that it's positive energy, or at least a determination to survive, right? And I guess that could be construed as positive. But a positive energy is keeping the negative energy at bay. A collective positive energy of all of the inhabitants of the settlement. That's what I'm thinking is going on there. Our team has reached the northern edge of the Great Cleave, and we are down to 12 members from the original 19. So they've lost 7 people. But he doesn't explicitly say what the cause was, right? So obviously we're going to say it was the corrupted. Obviously we're going to say it was the corrupted. He lost 7 people to the corruption because that's what he was looking for. He was looking for the corrupted areas, right? That's what they were investigating. But it also could have been the angry earth along the way. It could have been a number of things. If we lose too many more, we'll be forced to turn back. Give me one quick second, guys. And I'm back. If we lose too many more, we'll be forced to turn back, which may work out for the best. So obviously they want to turn back. Well, at least Sarah Abram does. Wants to turn back. Because they've already lost 7 people, right? And since the people are essentially immortal on this island, right? Those 7 people, they could have been turned into guardians. They could have been corrupted. They could have been slain or something to do with the angry earth. But I'm gonna say corrupted because that's what they were actually investigating, was the corrupted areas, right? I think everyone would like to return safely to the south. Okay, so let's actually pull this up real quick. So this is that really cool map, guys. This is an awesome map. So let's pull up cities and other. All right. Areas. Nope. Actually, let's just zoom into Windsward. Okay. So let's pull the lore back up here, and it says, I think everyone would like to return safely to the south, and they were in an area called the Great Cleave, right? So Windsward is south. Let's do points of interest. No, that's not points of interest. Oh, no, there it is. Points of interest. Sorry about that. Great Cleave. There we go. Okay. So is this area up here the Great Cleave? Because it looks like that's what Yeah. Okay. So they've made their way from Windsward so they've made their way from here up towards the Great Cleave, and they are wanting to come back down towards Windsward. It's probably like, what, more than a third of the map that they've actually traversed to get up there. So there's a lot of distance for them to have lost these 7 people, but we're gonna assume it's the corrupted that's causing it. For now, we will continue our research. Our current task is checking all the soil samples between locations to determine if there is any variance in composition or quantity of Azoth. So they're also looking for Azoth, right? And they're trying to see if there is something in the soil that's going to tell them the potency or the quantity of Azoth. Give me one more second. So they're looking at the variance in composition. So the potency of the Azoth, right? And the quantity that could be in the areas based on these soil samples that they've been picking up. And here we're seeing that hope again. Looking forward to see you soon. Perhaps you'll buy me a drink on return. There's not that like sense of hopelessness that we saw with Azelgard, with Sarah, because she still thinks that she's gonna make it back south towards Windsward from the Great Cleave. You can keep it off. Okay, so this one is found at Cooper's Ranch and is written by Robert to Sarah. So let's zoom out of Cooper's Ranch and let's see where it's located. So this was Windsward, right? So it's not that far north of Windsward. So Robert didn't make it far with that letter, as opposed to Sarah's letter, which had to have made it from the Great Cleave, through Brightwood, through Everfall, to get back to Windsward. So that's kind of weird. Sarah, it pleases me to know your expedition is going well, though I mourn for your losses. I would love to join you, but my duties here, while menial at times, are important to the settlement. Perhaps if another were to take my place, I would be free to do so, but my standards are high, you know, and I've yet to find anyone who could measure up to the task. So he finds his job to be important, and he doesn't trust anybody else to do it, regardless of how small it is. I shall take on your recommendations regarding the soil. There is a skilled newcomer to the area who has been able to handle my requests with ease, and I may present them with this new one next time I spot them in town. I'm assuming this skilled newcomer to the area is... One second. I'm assuming the skilled newcomer to the area is the players, right? Because we're doing quests, and all that stuff. So I'm assuming that's who he's referring to there. I have full confidence that they're more than capable of gathering soil samples from some of the locations nearby and to handle whatever Cretans are currently in residence there. And yes, of course, I shall buy you a drink of your choice upon your return. I do miss our discussions, and you have a knack for deciphering even the toughest puzzles. I shall find a suitable one for you. Don't you worry. Robert Colthan. Okay, so if we're breaking this down like we did the other ones, we don't really need to look into his duties, I don't think. That's just him saying that, like, that's his main focus, and he has high standards. So that could be his, like, determination, his motivation for keeping that immortality, and not falling into that negativity that I think is causing some of the people to age, like we saw in Embracing the Darkness, right? Taking your recommendation on the soil, and there's a skilled newcomer to the area that should be able to handle the request with ease. Pretty sure that's in reference to our players, and a possible quest line, and to further that, you have I have full confidence that they're more than capable of gathering the soil samples from the locations nearby, which would imply that, it's a fetch quest. They're going to send us on a fetch quest, right? And to be able to handle whatever cretins reside there, that's the basic tenet of a fetch quest. And yes, of course, I shall buy you a drink upon your return. I do miss our discussions, and you have a knack for deciphering even the toughest puzzles. So if we take this, again, literally, and not just assume that he's shitty at doing puzzles, then the line that we saw here, where it said, no logical progression, no deterministic cause for the spread is baffling, while the scientist is thrilled at the challenge, the human in me is terrified. That her abilities as a scientist are extraordinary, right? So I feel like the energy thing is more and more like my theory here on the positivity versus the negativity being the deterministic factor of the immortality on the island. I feel like that's becoming more solid the more and more we keep reading on. So that's a good read. So real quick, let's look over this map that these people have put together. It's such a great resource, right? They took the entire game map, obviously, like, leaving out anything that's not currently in the game, and you can just turn on and off all these right. And so, like, let's say that I started the game, I'm in First Light, I go through here and I'm in First Light, and I go, man, I really need some hemp, right? I want to make a fishing pole, but I need hemp. Turn that on. I don't think these are explicitly where the nodes are, but it's like the general area that the nodes spawn. So you can kind of path yourself out, right? And this is New World map.com in case you want to come play around with this. It's such a great tool, and I see myself, like, once the game launches and I'm playing and I'm like looking for all this stuff, I'm going to just be using this all the time. Yeah, see, it's amazing, like, how much work had to have gone into this. You can even turn on the locations of the lore pages. Content of lore pages. You can do Angry Earth. And then they have a link back to the main site. Which, let me find something we already looked at. It's just this. It even has a counter on when the game is going to release. You know, I strongly suggest anybody expecting to play this to come here. Yeah, Stoldar, it is the best map. It definitely is that. Oh, and also, they have a company, you know, searcher. You can put in the server, the region, the faction, your language, like literally everything. You can fund the group that suits you, right? All right. So let's take a quick break from the lore, and let's... Oh, no, wrong site. There we go, my bad. Let's look at this. I just wanted to plug this because it's such a great tool. I've used it a bunch already. So you can put a name to your build. So, like, I'm going to be doing ice and healing. And the reason I want it is, you know, let's say I'm just gonna do it for PvP. You can set all of your attributes. These are the base attribute points that you get from leveling. This isn't the additional points you would get from armor. But you can also assign gear here, I'm assuming, to buff these. I didn't use the gear thing. I just wanted to set it up with the basic attribute points. But you can also set this. So let's say that I want to do life staff because I'm going to be healing, and I want to do the ice gauntlet because I'm going to be doing some CC using frost, right? Then I have the points, the maximum points that I can set here, and I can build out my weapon spec, my attribute spec, get to these breakpoints where I get the buffs and all that. It's a really great tool. If you haven't played with it yet, I really suggest you guys come take a look at that. So really we only have one more major lore section before we can start just breaking into the non-major lore pages. And so let's just read over this paragraph right here, and then we'll take a look at the lore pages. Let's see how many there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 lore pages, and they're probably about the same length as the other ones, right? The Stevens Expedition is about a group of 3 adventurers who set out to investigate the mysterious obelisk in the center of Everfall and the northern part of Windsward. They are determined to figure out what the obelisks are for and how they are powered and why they are guarded. The Stevens Expedition gives a few hints about these mysterious ancient obelisks might be for and where they are derived. Okay. So let's take a look at the Stevens Expedition actual lore pages. And it looks like, just from the page titles, so you have the Stevens Expedition from the Tales of Aeternum, and then there's pages for day 1, day 19 and 20, day 21 and day 26. So we're missing the first like 18 days. And then we have 19, 20, 21, and then we're missing another 5 days. And then we get day 26, right? So let's take a look at day 1. And we'll also kind of be tracking on the map where they made it between each, right? So day 1, found near Orion. Today we journeyed out from the settlement in Everfall to uncover all we can about these beguiling obelisks. I, Roger Henry Stevens, led this expedition and am accompanied by 2 strong associates, Walter McKay and Elias Anders. As leader, I assign myself to the task of documenting our journey for posterity, as well as recording the scientific measurements and observations to be gained from this endeavor. As draft animals are difficult to come by, our expedition is lightly equipped, bearing only what we can carry on our backs. Our goal is to complete a circumference of the outer obelisk, and if successful, gather a full expedition to penetrate the ruins and make a true inspection of the central obelisk. One planned detour is to be made to Windsward Settlement for resupply and respite. I plan to spend a few days at each obelisk, taking measurements and gathering plant and stone samples from each location to determine what, if any, differences are present at each. Our first destination is the Orion Obelisk, where the journey shall begin. Okay, so we're getting the names, right? Roger Henry Stevens, Walter McKay, and Elias Anders. So we got 3 people, and Roger is the leader. They're walking around the stone obelisk trying to figure everything out, and they don't have, pack animals to carry their stuff, so they're lightly equipped. And then they're going to go to Windsward to resupply and to rest. So, being that this was day 1 and the next letter takes place on 19, we're going to have to see where they reached on day 19 and see, how and if they made it to Windsward, so we can kind of, guess what went on there. Alright, so let's look at day 19. Found near Octans. Okay, so let's pull up the map real quick. So they're in Everfall here, and then they're in Windsward here, about that far in 19 days. Arrived at the Octans today, no issues of note during the travels from Hydrus. Earlier, settlers established a fortified structure nearby where we have set up camp. A pleasant change from these past weeks. Okay, well, we're seeing positivity there. Having a roof over our head. I shall have to speak with McKay and Anders to ensure that we do not relax our guard even during this respite. Alright, so he wants to make sure that everybody is staying on their game. I'm confident that my idea of leaving collective samples at stage locations is a correct one, given our limited carrying space. Okay, so again, they're having that problem with not being able to take a lot with them. To note, samples have been stored at the Hydrus Obelisk, while the first bundle of notes were stored at the Draco Obelisk. Collect these upon our return. So if we go to the Draco Obelisk, are we going to find more letters? Are we going to find torn letters? Like, what are we going to find there? Structure is almost identical to others found on previous expeditions, save some environmental weathering. This morning, McKay tried to rope tied off a rope and climbed to the observation platform with nothing to show for it but a nice view. Stones appear to have been shaped with little or no use of tools, may have been magically crafted. We'll continue to investigate the area, but plan to move on to Delphinus soon. Okay, so if he's right, then the obelisks were created with magic, which would imply Azoth, right? And that would mean that the ancients were probably involved, because their technology is way better than anything that our player characters or the NPCs that we can actually interact with have seen. So what we've gained from this letter against the first one is that in 19 days they actually didn't go that far of a distance, but he has been taking a lot of samples, and they are taking somewhat of a short break here, right? And that he did kind of figure out that it doesn't look like they've been shaped with any type of tool, so that would kind of imply that the ancients created it with their technology. Alright, so that was day 19 and 20. So there's 2 days worth of lore in that one. So let's go to day 21. Okay, so look at the map here. Everfall to roughly here, right? 19 days. 19 days to move that distance. So from here to here, 19 days. 1 day from roughly, like, what, right there? Let's see. If we use... yeah, so 1 day they moved like that much, as opposed to 19 days for that much. It's a little weird there. Found near Delphinus. Delphinus is much the same as Octans, with no nearby threats and travelers passing nearby with ease. Odd that. Earlier obelisk in this expedition, Hydrus, Draco, and Orion housed a number of guardians that did their best to prevent us from investigating the site, yet these two seem to be uninhabited. No damage is apparent, no major alteration in construction, though neither of these neither has easy access to the upper balcony. Sorry about that. Is there something... oh, thanks, man. Thanks, Beast Camp. Glad it's sounding good. If there's any adjustments, feel free to let me know. If it goes too high at some points or goes too low. Not much, man. We are looking over New World lore, reading through some of it, and making speculations based on some of the pages of lore that have been found in game. And all of this can be found on newworldfans.com, by the way, if anybody wants to read through some of it yourselves. If you want to look over and make your own speculation or look through the map, it's all up there. I shall convince McKay to scale the side to the platform to inspect the area further. We shall continue our endeavor, and with luck, find a clue that will help us unlock the mysteries of these obelisks. So really, on day 21, he doesn't have much more information. Like, the bulk of the information came from day 1, from what we've gathered for the past 3 letters. Other than the fact that Delphus and Octus they don't seem to have damage or any changes in the construction compared to the other ones, but they also aren't inhabited by the Guardians. They don't need protection like the other ones did, right? So he goes on to say that they don't have ease of access to the upper balcony. Is that what attracts the Guardians? So is there something that has to do with the upper reaches of the obelisk that is causing the Guardians to be attracted to these areas? What did the ancients put up there that could be attracting them? Are they there to stave off corruption? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to find out. Found near Cygnus? A smear of blood obscures much of the text, but it is clearly written in a different hand than the previous entries. Stevens is dead. McKay is dead. I am likely next. I don't know why they aren't coming back to life. Not like we haven't all died once or twice or thrice before. Maybe we each have an allotment of lives like cats. Maybe it has something to do with these obelisks. Whatever the case, the team is gone. I'm trapped here. Whoever found this, please and then it stops. So, how much further away are they in this one? Not all that much further. So, like, the amount of time that it took them to make this trip above Windsward isn't that bad. Sorry, the cat was yelling. The amount of time it took them to travel this distance was nothing compared to the 19 days it took them to travel this distance, which is much shorter than, this. This took less than a week. No, the only difference in volume on this one is I have the music running at a much lower volume than I would the game volume. Just because the bulk of this one was supposed to be me talking and reading through all this stuff. So there should be some light music going in the background, but not to the point of overwhelming my voice at any point. If that is not the case, I may need to turn it up or down depending on how it's sounding to you. One other thing we can pull from this letter here is that they aren't coming back to life, right? Why? Is it the obelisk that's causing it? Real quick. So you only hear me, you don't hear the music, like, at all? So I need to, like... Okay. I put it up about 10%. That any better? Cool. Cool. I really appreciate you jumping in here, Beastcamp. Beastcamp has been helping me outside of the stream getting this audio fixed up. I don't want to go too loud because it is playing a lot louder in my headphones, and I don't really have much control over that without turning all of my volume down. But I brought it up like another 7%, and it's actually pretty loud in my ears. Just don't want to hurt my own ears trying to get this. Oh, it's all good. So I think that the Obelisks are... I think the Obelisks have something to do with them not coming back to life. I don't think it has anything to do with anything else. No, my headphones are plugged into my mic, and all of it's controlled by a volume dial on the mic, and then I can obviously control it via my computer, but it gets pretty loud. When does this officially release? September 28th. It is like $40 on Steam. There is not a subscription fee, so once you buy the game, you can play it. There is a cash shop. The cash shop is only cosmetic at this time. There was some talks of it being more than that, but that was quickly shot down by the community. So that's the basic tenets of when the game comes out and the cost associated with it. I'm just running Winamp and using the audio output capture, which is just going to capture anything that my computer spits out into my headphones. Yeah, it's just looking for what's getting shot to my headphones, essentially. Hey guys, I need a real quick break. Give me just 1 minute. I'll be right back. No, there is no volume control that just goes directly to my headset. Sorry about that. I'm gonna go talk to my wife real quick. I don't think that this page has a lot to do with the energy that we were talking about earlier. I think it's specifically the obelisk. I think that maybe these obelisks have something to do with maybe Azoth being created, because Azoth is pushing their lifespans, right? That's what we've kind of established. It does hurt the OBS input a little bit. I have noticed if I turn my computer volume down, it does drop the audio output capture some. I don't know why that is, but I have noticed it. These obelisks have to have been built by them, and I want to say that the obelisks have something to do with the creation of Azoth. Like, I really, really think that those two things have to do with each other. The content here is these lore pages that are found in the game, and you can run up and touch them, and it gives you lore about the game in ways that are like a non-playable character writing to someone else, or notes back and forth. And these were found in the beta, and somebody collected all of them and then put them all here in this database with all the pages you want, right? And then you click on them, and that gives you all the information, and it tells you where the page was found in the game. And so the actual lore of the game is stored here. But it's not, as far as we're aware, the lore that is here is what's going to be in launch. So we're not losing or gaining any lore. So we can start making our own inferences and speculations based on the lore that has been released. Turn down my computer and boost it in OBS. Let me try that. Do I still have... Make sure I have it boosted in OBS. Alright, how does that sound? Is that... Can you still hear the music good and hear me good? We aren't expecting much to change from the beta to launch, by the way. So a lot of these builds, so you can go to a build calculator and create builds, and you can look at other people's builds, right, and see how they're setting their stuff up. We're not expecting that stuff to change before launch. So this site also is a great tool if you want to pre-plan a character, or to find some sort of a community to join. These are really great sections to be used. To answer your question, Beast Camp, yes, it is currently maxed out. Oh no, I had to go down just a little bit because it was actually spiking way too much. It's like 80%, and it's hitting 20 decibels, I guess. Also, guys, these videos here by Studio Loot have some pretty in-depth and great lore stuff, and they actually let's see if I can find it. Oh, I can't do full screen mode. They actually do show some of the in-game stuff that goes along with the lore, like the Obelisk. Oh, let me turn it down a little bit then. Alright, it is down 10%. But they actually do show you, like, they were referring to the view in the expedition, right? Where they said that the guys went up and they were able to get this really amazing view after getting to that next area, right? So this guy, he actually goes up there, where in the lore it said he had this amazing view once he got up there, right? He gets up there and the view is really amazing, right? And then here's like some pictures of these obelisks. So this site does have like a lot of great stuff, and you know, Studio Loot is the the YouTube that's doing a lot of this lore stuff here. But as of right now, we have officially gone through all 4 major lore sections today. Another 5%. You got it. How's that? So we've gone through all 4 major lore sections, and we even went through Constable Oak's journal and Embracing the Darkness, right? Because these 2 I felt were very important lore-wise. In terms of understanding how corruption and how immortality work on this island. And I think we got some pretty great stuff hashed out today with all of this. I think we're gonna be calling it here soon with today's Aeternum Bookclub. And I hope everybody has enjoyed themselves going through all of this lore and speculating all this. I have been reading for a little over 2 hours now, and pretty much non-stop talking for 2 hours, which I am not accustomed to doing. But I do hope everybody enjoyed themselves, and I hope everybody got a good grasp of some of the basic tenets of the lore and basic understanding of how everything plays out in terms of the structure of the world. And like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, guys, this is definitely a hidden gem when it comes to MMOs in terms of lore. Like, obviously, a lot of people knew this was going to be a big game, and a lot of people are going to want to play it, and all this and that, right? But I've heard a lot of complaints about the lore, and again, I think it's just the way that people are digesting the lore. They're not accustomed to the way that this game presents their lore. So it's definitely a hidden gem in terms of story. I think it's a lot more complex than people are giving it credit for, because nobody has really deep dived into the specifics like we did today. With just, like, we spent 2 hours and we've only gone through, like, realistically, like, what, 9 pages, if that. Like, I didn't count them as we were doing them, but it definitely wasn't a huge amount of lore that we went into, and there's 36 pages worth of lore on these databases. Like, look at that, 34 pages of this stuff. Just so much, right? We barely scratched the surface. And then you even have these codexes that are written in a language that we don't even have deciphered yet, right? I think long term we're going to see a lot more story-wise out of this game. And I hope everybody enjoys it. And I hope everybody sticks to it and really gives this story a chance, because they have a great story to tell. I think they just need a better way to deliver it to the players. And I think that even if we had somebody like Novel or I don't know, I really can't think of a Final Fantasy 14 version of Novel, but you know, somebody to deliver lore like that, and I hope that I can at least get people interested in enough of the lore. I don't know that I'll ever become a Novel for this game like he was for World of Warcraft, but you know, I definitely don't want this to fly under the radar, this story to fly under the radar. Alright guys, I think we're going to call it here. I appreciate everybody who showed up today and hung out with us and listened to me talk about all of this this New World lore. And feel free to hit me up on our Discord. And you know, we will be going through a lot more of this lore in the weeks to come leading up to the launch, and probably even after launch we'll have more of these book clubs set up. So if you did enjoy this, be sure to follow us, and we will do this again sometime soon. Appreciate it, guys. Everybody have a great afternoon.